Okay, to start off the event, we have a special guest from Singapore who does work across the Asia region in particular, but also the world, and has worked with large companies in Philippines to help them with digital transformation. Scaling Up is the company name, and what he does for companies is using digital transformation to really accelerate their businesses. So it's good to hear from a guy who's not just talking technology, but actually making it a business transformational tool. So really pleased to have him, and seems like a heck of a nice guy. So please welcome Jeremy Han to the show. Glad to have you, Jeremy.
Thank you for everyone for having me here, and thank you, Richard, for introducing me. So I want to talk about how do we create a 10 times or exponential advantage over our competition with digital transformation. Now, I think this is very important because so many companies talk about digital transformation, but they don't have a context, right? How do we, or where do we apply our digital transformation? And this becomes a problem because companies are like running around like a chicken without a head, right? In how they should apply digital transformation. I think we all start with this question of how do we scale the business? And we also ask this question, where are our constraints? You see, every business wants to scale, but every business at the same time has constraints. So where do we put this digital transformation is really to put this digital transformation in this context of how do we use digital transformation to break our constraints. So if you look at the picture below here, you see a guy trying to break the constraints so that he could gain his freedom, right? I think that's what a lot of companies need to do. Look at our constraints and ask ourselves, how do we break these constraints? So I want to share you a case study of this fashion business that I work with, right? This is more than a 60-year-old company. It's a listed company. And in this earlier part of the year, we were doing our annual planning. And we were asking this question, how do we scale the business? How do we be 10 times better than our competitors? And we started by looking at the constraints, right? And we asked ourselves, what is the constraints for a fashion business? And the constraints is really about how many designs can we put out every season. And then we came to this conclusion that to break this constraint, we need to address the question of how many designers do we have? Because the number of designers you have will determine the number of designs you can create for every season. And we asked ourselves this question, how many design schools are there across the country? Right? If we can tap into these design schools and get them to design for our business, then we can break the constraints on the number of designers we have in-house, because the number of designers every company has is a constraint because it's a heavy cost for the business. Now, the interesting thing is this. When you get these people to design, these design schools to design for us, in a competition, what also happens is that you get the crowd to vote which designs that they like. And this solves the second constraint for fashion companies. And that is, how do I know that my designs are going to be accepted for every season, right? That's a huge uncertainty for business because you can design something you think is nice, and when you produce it and send it out, nobody wants to buy it, right? That's a huge problem for business. So looking at this, what I think is interesting is digital transformation in this case is really not so much about what is those expensive new technologies that we need to invest, which is a problem because a lot of companies think that heavy technology investment is a hindrance or an obstacle to their digital transformation. But to run these online competitions, to tap into the crowd, you don't need a lot of expensive technology. In fact, all the technology platforms are already there. You can use most of the social media platforms that you have to run these competitions and get the crowd involved. Now, the only challenge is this, is to switch from a traditional B2B thinking to a B2C thinking. Even though this business is a B2B business for the last 60 years, and it is still a B2B business, but it has to change the way it thinks first about its constraints before they can ask themselves what technology or what platforms actually make sense for us. So digital transformation, I would like to sum up in these two quotes, is really about transforming your business model first. So on the left, we have Clay Christensen, the late Clay Christensen, great professor, really love his thoughts. He says that most companies think that the key to growth is to create new technologies and products. But actually, that's not true. To unlock this growth is really about embedding this technology and innovative thinking into a business model. And the other thought leader here, David Rogers, I really love his book, The Digital Transformation Playbook, right? I think this is absolutely a book everybody needs to read about digital transformation. And he says this: digital transformation is not about technology. Doesn't that sound like weird, right? Then what it is about? It is about strategy and new ways of thinking. It is about transforming our strategic mindset first, more than upgrading our technology. We have to upgrade the way we think about our business and our strategy in a digital world. So I really like these two quotes because it helps us to sum up what digital transformation really is and help us not to focus on the wrong things. I want to just end off with a story of a company who spent $150 million US dollars on digital transformation 3 years ago, and lately they declared it was a failure. Why? Because 3 years ago, when they started this digital transformation journey, the CEO was asked this question: what does digital transformation mean to you? And he said, digital transformation is about putting a rocket on a turtle. Now, you put a rocket on a turtle to make the turtle go faster, the turtle is still a turtle. Nothing really changed. The business model has not changed. But if you look at the other picture here, you have got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And that's what I would like you to remember. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are an evolved form of turtles. They may still be turtles, but they have got supernatural powers, right? They behave and act like human beings, even though they're turtles. So digital transformation is really not about putting technology just to make an old business model go faster. It is really about the evolution, the transformation to become a much better, much powerful version of your business. And that requires, first and foremost, a new way of thinking before we invest and put money into the technology. And remember, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can always start with what technology is already out there, provided the way we think about the business has changed. So, what's wrong with this picture? What do you think is wrong with this picture? I love this picture, right? Because everybody will just point out and say that these Roman soldiers are not supposed to be having machine guns, right? And I think this really sums up my presentation today about digital transformation. The digital transformation is about playing a different game. It's not just about technology. It is really about playing a different game. And this game starts off with this question of, how do I scale the business by breaking my constraints? And if I can break my constraints and my competitors continue to live with these constraints, that's how we gain a 10-time or an exponential advantage over our competitors. And technology is just a tool, but the key thing is we have to understand it is about playing a totally different game. So my friends, thank you very much for giving me this time to share with you in this morning. And I would like to continue this conversation with you. My name is Jeremy Han. I'm a scaling up coach. I work with companies across the Asia Pacific region, helping them to scale, including many companies in the Philippines. And if you would like to continue this conversation with me on digital transformation, let's get in touch on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon.